mentioned to us some stories about individuals in the past, some with names, some without names. Today's, for example, won't be with names, but however, they're meant to try to inspire us to do better and to implement them in our life. Something that was pretty interesting that I just studied with Sheikh Yasser just this past weekend. He was teaching a course called the Thematic Tafsir of the Quran that goes through different ways that the Quran is explained in different types of categories, in different formats and whatnot. And he said something that was really interesting that really hit home for a lot of the people taking the class, a lot of the students of knowledge. And he said a lot of times that you feel like you're just doing so well a particular day, getting close to Allah, getting close to your Lord. You feel really good that day for some reason. And then there's other days that you feel like, man, like what am I doing? Like I feel like maybe I'm wasting a little bit too much time. I had a goal in mind that by 21 I'd memorize the Quran. These are ambitious goals. These are nice things. Everybody should always be aiming for the highest, right? And then somewhere in there, there's like this middle ground, this kind of disconnect. And it really comes down to the following, and it was pretty nice to how he summarized it in a nutshell. Regarding the knowledge that you know, and the knowledge of that knowledge that you know, how much of it you actually act upon. And that's pretty interesting, because he said, we all know we have to fast Mondays and Thursdays. It's part of the sunnah. They said, well, wait, we don't have to. But we should, because it's extra credit. You're getting deeds from Allah, you're getting X and Y and Z. So we should be fasting Mondays and Thursdays at minimum. The top type of siyam is fasting one day on, one day off. We all know we should be waking up for Qiyam al-Layl, for the night prayer. And that's the closest, the last third of the night is the closest you can actually be with Allah Azza wa Jal. The closest moment, relationship that you can have in asking Allah Azza wa Jal. We all know all of these extra things, and we learned a lot, right, when we learned about a lot of the characteristics and manners of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam last semester, and you ask yourself, how much of it did we actually apply? And that's where you find the iman disconnect, because a lot of times, just so you know, the ilm is addictive. Learning this religion is very addictive, because it's so interesting that you learn something new about this Prophet who emulated the religion in his lifetime. When Aisha radiallahu anha, she was asked after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because who was better to ask than the people that lived with him? And now, if this girl, like some of these non-Muslims and these weird propaganda type people have stated about Islam and his wife, if they really hated him and they were forced into marriages and all of this business that they mentioned, then what better way to come out and say, yeah, actually I was forced, than after he's dead? Because now you're free. You're a widow. You're doing whatever you want to do. And yet she responds so that this door is closed to anybody thinking that there was even a slight blemish in his characteristic and his manners, even inside the home. She said, خُلُقُهُ كَانَ الْقُرْآنِ. She said his type of characters, his type of character and his manners were like the Quran. Everything you read about in the Quran, which Allah tells you do, don't do, it's better for you, it's better for the people, it's this, it's that, he was exactly like that. He followed it to the T. And that's very interesting, because a lot of us, we live double lives. And now maybe 3 lives. You've got your indoor home, which a lot of us were cursing out our parents. Wallahi, I was in a Uber just, I think it was last week. It was last week. And there was this Syrian driver, and he's telling me that our generation he feels bad for. And I said, why? He said there was a young guy sitting in the passenger seat. He told his mom, I'm riding shotgun. First of all, she made her sit in the back. That's interesting. That's like the start off, right? That's just the beginning. He knew something was going wrong here. He said, because I was asking him, how do you like your job? Doing Uber, it seems like it's flexible. Some people hate their guts, corporate, blah, and this. They don't pay them enough, whatever. He said, no, alhamdulillah, I like it. He said, but a lot of times, as a driver, I can't speak in certain instances where if we were back home, I could slap this kid across his face about what he was doing to his mother. I said, what do you mean? And he told me that was the first thing he did. And the next thing he did, she said, oh no, why don't you act this? And she's being so nice. And he goes, you know what, shut the F up. You don't know anything. Just tells his mother that. He said, he said, wallahi, I think my face turned white, pale, the rest of the night. I said, I don't know who paid, I don't know who I picked up, I don't know who came and went in the car. I don't know if they requested radio on, radio off. He goes, I lost it. He goes, I just couldn't believe that someone can speak to this way. So that's one way that people live. There's that personal life that only the closest people know you, that actually see if you're really hot-headed or not, if you really throw plates across the room when you're angry, if that's what makes you calm down. It's not supposed to. It's actually going to get worse, just so you know. If you're the type of person that just storms out of the house when you can't handle something. And then that's one set. And then there's the other set, which is the fun set, which is this set, by the way. It's all your friends know you. And then there's that kind, which is just chill, down to earth. Yeah, I'm good with anything, no problem. But then now all of a sudden we got this third phase, which is social media. And then that's the best picture on earth of you, photoshopped like no tomorrow. And now there's filters and all this other business, and you're not just like two different people now. And then there's this, this kind of look that you want everybody to perceive of you. And so this is all how we should be implementing what we learn in our life, so that all three of those are as even as possible. That's the goal. No matter where you are, you're that same genuine person, and it's for a good reason. Because I hear a lot of other people that are like, well, I'm the same with my friends, with my family, it doesn't matter. I'm like, really? Yeah, they're gonna hear me. And if I got something to say, I'm gonna tell them to their face, behind their face. Okay, actually that's not a good thing, by the way. Because if you're bad with everyone, you kind of hit rock bottom over here, right? It's like 0, 0, 0. Be a 1 with someone, you know? If you could get 10 to one of these categories, and you're just like, nah, I'm just 0 with everybody, and I'm true, I'm real, and I'm not 2-faced or 3-faced or 6-faced, whatever it is. But that's kind of really bad, by the way. That's not a good thing. At least the person who's good with friends and not that great with family, at least there's some hope. Alhamdulillah, we're getting somewhere. So never forget that the goal behind us meeting like this is that whatever you learn here, you're going to implement in your life. And by the way, sometimes it's the hardest. It's very, very difficult to implement some of the things that we learn. One of the biggest challenges I'm going to challenge you with today, by the way, is wealth, is money. How you earn it and how you spend it. And all around that kind of category. Because the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he specifically told us in narration, authentic narration, he said that every single ummah had a fitna. And the fitna of my ummah is al-mal. He said, Inna likulli ummatin fitna wa fitnatu ummati al-mal. He said, every single nation had a fitna, and our fitna is wealth. If I told you things that people went through to earn money and gain money, you would be absolutely floored and flabbergasted on what the extent people will go to earn money. And I'll never forget when I was in college and we were studying for one of our, I think it was probably Calc 3, there was this girl amongst our group that said something, wallahi, in my life, I'm never going to forget it. So she was an international student, and she said something along the lines of, we were all studying, trying to get this problem down, solving previous exams, like, you normally would. And we were taking a break, and just everybody's talking, like, what made you come choose NJIT versus other schools? I said, look, I wanted to be in an area close to the city, and I wanted to do anything to be successful. I wanted to do anything to be successful. So we just started laughing. She said, no, you guys don't get it. So then it kind of got a little serious. Well, what do you mean we don't get it? We all want to be successful. Who doesn't want to make $1 billion a year? Who doesn't want to do like an Amazon of some sort virtual in the future or something? I don't know. Who doesn't? All of us want to. She said, no. She said, I'm willing to be successful to the extent that if I had to sell my own mother to be successful, she'd just understand. Then it got a little weird. Because now you cross the line here. I mean, but you recognize that this money and what people are willing to do to get that money, there's like no boundaries at some point. And sometimes even for us as college students, whether you want to hear it or not, a lot of times the way that we earn our money in our education is not the way that Allah told us to. Like for example, if you pay close attention to the statements that these people mentioned, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us about 3 types of people, which all of them had some sort of disease, or they were all in some really bad financial state, and then Allah Azza wa Jal willed to test them. They were Muslims at the time of Bani Israel. At the children of Israel, they were Muslims at the time of the children of Israel. And obviously you guys know this without saying, obviously the Muslims were from the time of Adam until the day of judgment, everyone who followed their prophet, obviously, Muslimin. But they were just different prophet who taught them that religion, alhamdulillah. So Allah Azza wa Jal willed to test these three men at the time of Bani Israel. And something very interesting, because I want you to remember the responses that they had and the conditions that they faced, because you'll benefit from them in your life, bi'idhnillah. Allah Azza wa Jal sent these three men. One of them was a leper. Someone had leprosy. It's a disease, obviously. And here's something interesting. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam called each one of these men had a particular disease. So he said leprosy, there was a bald man, and there was a blind man. There was three men. And so Allah sent them an angel to test them. So Allah sent the angel first to the leper, and he asked him, he said, what do you want most? He asked the leper. And he said, I would love to have good color and good skin, for the people have a strong aversion to me. And if you ever meet these kind of people, may Allah protect us in good health and iman, and may Allah cure them from their disease. It's very distracting, if you will, to look at, because they have like a look that's very hard to keep, staring at without, being kind of distracted, if you will. So he said that people have a somewhat of an aversion towards me. So the angel touched him, and his illness was cured, and he had good color and beautiful skin. So then the angel asked him, he said, what kind of property do you like most? And he said, I like camels. Now, the one who was narrating this hadith, the companion, he said, I can't remember if the leper wanted the cows or the camels. But he said, I think it was the camels. Why am I just putting this little side note? And the reason I'm relaying this to you is because this is exactly how the Sahaba narrated this hadith. They left nothing out. And that's just interesting, because even to the extent in the narration, they'll tell you if I was sure about something or not. That's to the extent that they went to make sure when they narrated the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the statements, the actions, the silent tasks of approvals of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they tried to relay it to us in the exact detail as possible. Nonetheless, he said, okay. So he said, the angel gave him a pregnant she-camel, and the angel said, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless you in it. May Allah bless you in it. Then the angel was sent to a bald-headed man, and he said, what is it that you like most, that you would want most for the bald-headed man? He said, I would like good hair and to be cured of this disease, for the people feel repulsed towards looking at me, right? So the angel touched him, and his head and his illness was cured, and he was given a good hair. The angel asked him, he said, what kind of property do you like most? He said, cows. Now don't forget, he said, I don't remember if it was him, but nonetheless, this little detail won't make any changes in the narration. He said cows. The angel gave him a pregnant cow, and he said, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless you in it. The angel went to the blind man, and he asked. He said, what is it that you want most? He said, I wish that Allah Azza wa Jal would restore my eyesight to me, so that I may see people. And the angel touched his eyes, and Allah gave him back his eyesight. The angel then asked him, he said, what kind of property do you like best? He said, I like sheep. So the angel gave him a pregnant sheep, and he said, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless you in it. Afterwards, some time passed, and all three of the pregnant animals gave birth, and they multiplied to the extent that the Prophet ﷺ said that each one had a stock, the flowing between valleys. Now, you might not know what that equals, but I'll tell you this much. And we learned this in Sharia in terms of equivalence, because if, la samahallah, if, may Allah protect us all, if you accidentally killed someone or something like that, there is a payment of 100 camels, which is in the Sharia is what you owe that family as accident, which will kind of force you to really be careful throughout life, right? But accidents do happen, and so anyhow, we wanted to see actually what is the value of a camel in the United States, and a lot of them were actually imported years ago in Arizona, and we found that one of the averages was $3,000. So it would actually come out to 3,000 times 100, which would be $300,000 that this man owed that family. 300,000, and that's just for 100 camels. I just want to make that kind of clear. Imagine if you had it between valleys, like two valleys. And if you don't know, how many people have ever been to Medina or Mecca? You have? You notice how there's these massive mountains that are kind of spread apart? Imagine that entire valley is filled with one type of animal. It's extremely, extremely wealthy. right? And so I want you to imagine you're talking about millions, possibly even billions of dollars of how rich they became. So then Allah Azza wa Jal sent the angel back to them, and he made the angel in the shape and the appearance, first in the appearance of a leper, of a human being with a disease of leprosy, so that he can test them after that period of time. And now I want you to think for a moment. One, how they got their money. Number two, who they attribute their success to, right? Because this is the breaking point here. Who you attribute your success to. And then three, what you're doing with the money. So never forget that. Because when you're in the grave, Allah Azza wa Jal will ask you, Allah will send the angels to ask you a few things. Not just how you earned it, but how you spent your money. So there's just two questions right there on your wealth on itself, right? So he came to the leper and he said, I'm a poor man, and I lost all my means of livelihood. I lost everything. And here's something also interesting, which we'll kind of mention as a lesson learned after. Did this man who was rich now, the former one with the leprosy disease, when this angel approached him in the human form, he doesn't know he's an angel. And this is interesting because these are not prophets. You're probably thinking like, wow, what a magnificent story. What you're probably missed is this could have happened to you. That you're walking on the Broad Street station and some bum comes up to you, or some homeless person, someone with unfortunate luck of losing their job or whatever, comes up to you and says, hey, can I get $1 just for bread? I'm a college student, I'm broke. And walk away. We know you're broke. But does anyone have $1 to spare? And then, oh, he's going to use it on drugs. Oh, so you know the future now. I could tell he got some weird things growing on his arm. Why are you judging people? This is weird. And you're going to notice something very interesting. Watch their reaction, each one of them. So he said, and he said, I lost all my livelihood while I was on a journey, and so none will satisfy me except Allah. He's pointing first, Allah will help his cause. He said, and then after Allah, you. Perhaps you can help me. You see, look, you're a wealthy guy. You're doing all right. He said, in the name of him who's given you such nice color and beautiful skin, giving him a little bit of a reminder. You weren't always like this. You're in this lap of luxury that you're living in right now, right? I ask you to give me a camel. He just asked for one camel, right? So that I may reach my destination, just so I could get back home. And the man replied, what a lot of us reply with. May Allah just protect us. He said, I have many obligations, so I can't. I have a lot of obligations. I got what? You can list them right now, right? I got tuition. I got a car payment. I got my bus pass. I got books. I got, whatever extracurricular activities I'm doing. The new LeBron James sneakers are coming out. I've been saving up for that for a while. All sorts of things that everybody's going to mention. And you'll and you'll feel good about it too. You'll get on the bus and say, wow, I really can't. I got this other thing I'm doing. And then what? And look at what the angel said. He said, I think I actually know you. He said, were you not a leper before, whom the people had a strong aversion to? And weren't you a poor man, and then Allah gave you all of this property? And he responds very interestingly. He says, no, you got it all wrong. He says, I got all this property through the inheritance of my forefathers. I inherited this from my father. I inherited this wealth. The angel said, if you are telling a lie, then let Allah make you as you were before. And he leaves him. And then the angel obviously disguises as in the shape and appearance of a bald man, and he says the same thing to the bald man, the same exact thing, asking him just for a cow to get back on his feet and whatnot. And he answered the same exact way as the first guy answered. And he said to him, if you're telling a lie, may Allah Azza wa Jal put you back the way you were before. And then he comes to the third man, and the angel, disguised in the shape of a blind man, he went to the blind man and said, I'm a poor man, and I'm a traveler whose means of livelihood was exhausted on a journey. I have no help, nobody to help me except Allah, and after him, yourself. I ask you, in the name of the one who even gave you all of this and your eyesight back, to please help me on my journey, if you don't mind, to please help me, and give me one of these sheep that you have. So the man said, no doubt. He said, I used to be blind, and Allah gave me back my eyesight. He said, I was poor, and Allah made me rich. So anything you wish to have from my property, he said, anything you wish to have between those valleys, He said, it's for you, and I will not stop you from taking any of it. He said, the angel replied, he said, keep your property with you. He said, Allah Azza wa Jal tested, you've all been tested. Allah is pleased with you and has become angry with your two companions. This goes to show you that Allah Azza wa Jal can test us all 100%. And there's a huge fitna, especially amongst your crowd. Very, very much so. Not just because we're being complacent, but you also have the ability to earn very easily in a haram manner, and very easily to spend it in a haram manner. Because one of the ways you can earn something very haram is a student loan that you had no right to. Because having that with interest and things like that, this is the only thing that Allah Azza wa Jal declared war in the Quran. The only thing Allah declared war upon in the Quran himself is the one who deals with riba. 4 categories of them. The only thing, by the way, to the extent that on the day of judgment, the one who dealt in usury, and that just doesn't stop here. There's a car, and then there's a house, and then just one excuse after the other. When you're resurrected on Yawm al-Qiyamah, I want you to imagine how chaotic that day is, by the way, where the Prophet ﷺ said that the people will be running around as if they were drunk, like insane. He said, but they won't be drunk. They won't be. And they'll be naked, and nobody's going to even care that anyone's naked. But from how scary it is that day, you know, and people will be resurrected with some of them, their private parts on their faces. Some of them will be walking on their faces. This is a freaky moment, man. It's like scary business. It's not just a story. The Prophet ﷺ said, the one who created you to walk on your 2 feet in the dunya is the one who will recreate you to walk on your face. For those people who get that kind of punishment. It's easy for Allah. Nothing's difficult for Allah. Think about your creation. And those people studying biology, I feel like those people can really, really understand how close they can get to Allah. Yeah, by studying something like biology and these kind of sciences, because you recognize how phenomenal it is. I mean, I even met a heart surgeon. Well, my mother actually met her. And she even said to her, she said something. She wasn't Muslim, but she said something to her that was very interesting. She said, I know that there's a higher power. Because she's like, praising how Muslims react in these kind of times. And people with good iman, alhamdulillah, they don't sit there saying, well, why did I get cancer? And why did blah, blah, blah. They just say, alhamdulillah, everything from Allah is a ni'mah, and this is an expiation from my sin. They're amazed at how Muslims react. So she's talking to my mom, and my mom is, if you ever met my mom, she will give you the da'wah tea, man. You'll sit down, and it's just, you're going to have coffee, tea, cappuccino, everything. Yeah, and you're going to wind up talking to her for a while. But she's talking to this doctor, and she said, I'm just not that type of person that wants to assimilate with any type of religion. Allah Azza protect us from even thinking that way. She says, but I do know that there's a higher power. She said, why do you say that? She said, I studied the heart my entire life. She said probably 30 years or something doing this kind of profession. She said, and I know the miracles of this heart, it's just not science. There's things in this heart, it cannot be explained. No matter how many times we tried, no matter how many PhDs attempted, it cannot be explained. So I left it at that. This is what she tells my mom. Because she doesn't want to continue with the conversation around. She says, I left it at that. I know that there's a higher power. I don't know what it is, but I just know this is not science. If there gets to a point where you can only study so much that you say that it's up to here, which we know how to replace, we know that to bypass, we know this, but there's a point where we just can't explain it anymore. Interesting. And so for us, the reason I'm telling you all this is because on the day of judgment, when all of these things are taking place, this sickness on that day, you do not want to be the type of people that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, that the angels come and approach to the person who dealt with the riba, a usury, and they approach this person with weapons. You think you're going to go at war with angels, right? That's not how it works. They actually hand this individual the weapons. They said, by the way, the war that Allah promised you, that's today. These weapons are for you. Allah Azza wa Jalla is there. He said, you're at war with Allah. You think that's crazy. You'll be resurrected, and the first thing, people are running around insane, and angels approach you with weapons like, by the way, here's your weapons, good luck. Ya Allah, peace out. That's crazy. You do not want to be that type of person. And then there's the other side, the people who have been given money, and even sometimes not just earning it, how they spent it. You have a very easy way of earning it haram in this age, and you have a very, very easy way of spending it haram in this age. How many people invite you to YOLO it, right? Oh, crack once, cocaine once, weed once. There's 20 types of weed now, and there's one that was grown in Alaska and one that was grown in weeds in the whatever. It's insane. And they say, I'm of the opinion you just try everything once. Just so I could try it. This is sick. This is insane. This is not the way you live your life. That's how they believe. And you can easily spend that money very haram. We've seen people, when I was in college, and you probably met people firsthand, that they flunked out because they took all of their scholarship money, because obviously you guys all know by now that the more money that you get in scholarships and grants, that's non-tax, that's in your pocket, obviously. And if you didn't know that, you ought to start knowing that. And because, and don't do the mistake that I did. I was very stupid back then. I spent it all on a car, right? That to the extent that when I sold the car, I labeled it my ex-wife. My wife was concerned when I went to ask for her, but that's okay. But I went and dumped $30,000 on a car, which is going to rot and be junk and probably be made fun of 10 years from now. You drove that? What's wrong with you? Well, it was nice back in the day. But then save your money. But you can also spend it in something very, very haram. I knew somebody who went to Atlantic City every single weekend, went high, drugs, and gambled with his scholarship every single weekend, and flunked out completely. And if you met him before he had that kind of habit, and why is it so easy to spend money haram right now? Because your responsibilities are not that great right now. Right now, mashallah, your parents think the world of you, which we all know is fake. I'm not going to burst their bubble, by the way. But I sit down and, oh man, I'm in some of these family dinners, and they're like, oh, where's XYZ? I'm like, no, he's in college. I'm like, oh yeah? And then they're like, oh, no, don't call him. Don't call him, maybe he's studying. I'm just like, man, call him, text him, email him, get him here. He's not doing anything. We know that. And by the way, and I tell you guys this all the time, who's Archie here? Who's architecture? Nobody better raise their hand. If you do, it's okay. I'm telling you. I scoped it out myself. I wanted to see if the excuses were real. Find a friend. Go sit in one of their classes. They play rock band until the ideas come to them. Wallahi, I witnessed it. It's crazy. It's very crazy stuff. But I will give them credit because, you look at some of the stuff that they're designing today. It's phenomenal stuff. But to complain is the problem that I have. Okay, you sit, you play rock band, you play whatever, I don't know, Fortnite. I see them doing that now. And he's coming, I heard a kid right now, came from the parachute and I put it on slow glide and I came down and I was 10th. And I came down and I landed. And then that's supposed to be hard work, right? And I don't mind that. Again, I don't mind that. Have fun, do whatever you want, as long as it's halal. But I mind the complaining is the problem I have. And yet, you don't recognize that this kind of responsibility that you don't have yet, but you will have bi'idhnillah once you graduate, you're working, you have a family, you have responsibility, children, etc. Then right now you have a very easy means of spending that money in a haram way also, and earning it in a haram way. So do not be fooled. Another thing that you want to understand very importantly is do not be fooled by the provisions of this dunya. Someone who has a lot of wealth and a lot of material, it doesn't mean that, oh my God, Allah must love them. No, that's not the case. Don't ever assimilate Allah's love to anyone because you just don't know that. Unless Allah told you that. Like we all know that Ibrahim alayhi salam was Khalilullah. Allah loved Ibrahim, as well as all of his Anbiya and Prophets, to the extent that Allah said, do not differentiate between them. The Prophet ﷺ told us. Don't differentiate and favor one of the Prophets amongst the others. So that's something we recognize very, very importantly. That a lot of times we see somebody with a Ferrari or this and that, and they have so much, and you say, man, Allah put so much barakah in their business. He owns like 7 franchises. You want me to tell you something that you've probably never heard? There is a Muslim accountant who was doing the taxes for some very, very, very wealthy individual. So he did his taxes, and at the end of the year, he also on his zakat day, because your zakat day should be a day on the Islamic calendar year. It's not like September 1st, because then you're kind of off by 10 days, right? So you pick one day in the Islamic calendar year, and you pay zakat on that day every year. Nonetheless, if you had that wealth for a year and it was above the minimum, you pay. So it was his zakat day. He tells him, okay, I've done your math, and he gives him a bill. He said, you owe in zakah about, I think he said like $25 million. That's how wealthy this person is. So if you want to know what that is, just do 25 million times 40. Because that's the amount of zakah you pay. You divide your wealth, your total by 40. Well, on money, because we're not talking about sheep and land. I don't know anybody who's in that business now anyway. But nonetheless, so just multiply that by 40 on his cash value. Do you know what he responded to the accountant? He said, you think I sat my whole life making all this money so I could give it to these bums and idiots who sit on the corner? This is what he told me. He said, and what did I hire you for? Allah, he said, and what did I hire you for? He said, go and figure out how to lessen this. Say I had expenses and move this out of here, my losses. What if this is in front of Allah? This isn't IRS. What's the matter with you? So the guy, he said, I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. He said, go figure it out. He came back. He said, it's 14 million. I got another 6 off. Yani that's 6 times 40 he wrote off somehow. He said, okay, Yani, better than before. He said, okay, write the check, give it to whoever, the donation people. Now you might say, MashaAllah, he gave $14 million in zakah money? May Allah put barakah in his man, and Allahu Akbar, may Allah shilli man, may Allah, yani this guy, he has times 40, and he's worried about 6. You see the problem? This guy is a cheapskate. And you figure out with these guys, he has money between valleys. He wants 1. It doesn't even come out to 1%. 1% it doesn't come out to. And no, I can't give you this. This is from my forefathers. Well, they're dead, and you'll be dead. Give the guy a sheep. What's the problem here? And the thing is, you all think that you need to give this bum who's asking you money a lot of money. You don't. And this is my rule of thumb that I told all of the guys in my halaqah. If you've got $1, give the guy 10 cents. Give the guy a nickel. Or the girl, whoever. We're not discriminating. Or a quarter. Whatever you can. Because I want you to remember one thing. Do not meet Allah saying that someone asked me for money and I turned them away. Unless you didn't have cash. And wallahi, sometimes I just feel so bad. I wish these bums had access to a credit card machine. Wallahi, I mean it. And by the way, maybe one day that'll happen because there's technology that's saying we're all going to be implanted with a chip in our earlobe or in our hip or something like that. If you ever watch Shark Tank, you see what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, we're not there yet. So maybe in the future I could just, boom, I pay him and they're like, there you go, keep it moving. And then in traffic, this guy's going to be collecting. He just hit his earlobe on the windshield and just keep going. And maybe by that time he'll be rich, inshallah. He won't be begging for money anymore. But until that time comes, I always try to keep a few singles in my pocket. And when I see somebody really in just bad shape, like just take here. And I always try to say something Muslimi, you know. May Allah protect you. He said, yeah, God and Jesus. Oh, take the dollar and walk away. Man. Just keep it going. And it's very interesting, you know. And it's kind of just like a form of da'wah. Like my name, unfortunately, I can't ever complain about something alive. Alhamdulillah, but my name spelled as Baker doesn't really give away as a Muslim. Half the time people think I'm Jewish. I don't care. I just tell them we converted 3 generations up, and then they're some are upset about that, some are not. But nonetheless, so in order to try to give da'wah when I do that, and you leave a little note, as far as at least the guys can go, and you girls can do this too, I write Abdullah. I would sign the letter as Abdullah. We're all Ibadullah, and you guys can sign it as Amatullah, that female slave of Allah. And that's a very easy way of da'wah. That even in the hotel room, I found some of my non-Muslim co-workers, when I leave the hotel room, I try to put at least like $5 a night that I was there as a tip for the maid. And one of my co-workers goes, you tip? I'm like, yeah, why? He goes, that's their job. They got it's like, so what? I was like, why wouldn't you? She's cleaning after me. I'm like, I feel bad. That's just courtesy. And I always put $5 and I'll write the letter Abdullah. Because in our life, living in a predominantly non-Muslim society, your goal is da'wah. Man, I cannot stress that enough. If I could have a reminder that we just say, by the way, your goal is da'wah in this country, and then I walk away, or whatever they do now, mic drop or whatever goals they write now, and I saw all these weird things, and just, I'm telling you, that is the most important thing. A lot of us have this unrealistic, which it's realistic, but everybody landscapes their lawn. I can't have a neighborhood that doesn't landscape their lawn. That's what you're worried about? And then you die with a nice lawn. What was that about? No, this is crazy. That we think that we need to move to some nice town, and the school system's a 10 out of 10 on greatschools.com, and so what? That doesn't make sense. That's nice. That's good. But where is the Islam in all of this? Oh, I take out my neighbor's garbage. MashaAllah. We get you a medal. I do the snow, and I didn't even tell him I did the snow. Well, come on. This is not how it is. We have to think a lot more. We have to be a lot more creative. Did any of you take the class with Sheikh Omar Suleiman about Malcolm X? You did? Phenomenal to Sheikh Omar Suleiman about Malcolm X? You did? Phenomenal class, yes? If you didn't take this class about the life of Imam Malcolm X, Allah yarhamah, may Allah have mercy on him, oh man, you gotta just take it, because it will take your understanding of how much you can change in your little lifetime to another level. And he said a statement, and I want you guys to remember this, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions. He said that these Arabs are horrible at PR. He said if we just marketed Hajj to the rest of the world would become Muslim. If we marketed Hajj properly, and the beauty of the manasik of Hajj, the things that you go at Hajj, the world would become Muslim. He said, but they're a weird people. He wrote this in his journal entry. He said, they're a weird people. You tell them something, and then they say, Inshallah. But then they don't do anything. And we can't be that kind of people. That we just say, yeah, you know, that lecture that I had on Tuesday night, Inshallah. And then the bum, Allah's going to test you on your way home. And then you're going to be walking, so, well, can I get $1? And you're going to be like, Inshallah, tomorrow. I need this $1. I've been waiting for the ice cream from this place, and it's always closed when I pass by. You're going to be here tomorrow? Is this your homeless spot? Is this the corner you're holding down? I'll be here, Inshallah, tomorrow. What if you die? You see, you don't recognize that. So this is something that I want you to remember. The wealth, the wealth, the wealth. How you've earned it, how you've attained that wealth, how you spent it. Never forget that. This is the biggest fitna. And be like the third man in this story, who he attributed his success to Allah. The last lesson. He attributed his success in this dunya to Allah. You do the means. And I tell you guys this all the time. Do not be the type the type that feels that I deserve something. Do not be that type of person. You don't deserve anything. You're responsible for the process. You are not held accountable for the results. That's what Allah Azza wa Jal put for you on this planet. And if at the end of the day Allah willed that you would have a lot of wealth based on what you've done, excellent. If He willed that you're just not, then excellent too. Alhamdulillah. But we all know that in the akhirah, that's a different story, right? And that's our goal in life, so that we can try to continue living lives that will please Allah Azza wa Jal in this dunya. Questions? Comments? Concerns? It's okay. Even if you disagree with me, you could disagree with me. It's all good. You do anything. Are you guys really looking forward to Maghrib Salah? It's a good thing. It's a fun, because this is a sunnah. Most learning is fun, but fun is always the most important thing. Going once? Oh, now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, talking about when you said that giving money and stuff like that, and you don't know the intentions of people, and always think about the best intentions. So, for example, if someone takes that money and uses it for something not as good, do we get, like, half of it?
So we didn't have enough time, but there was another narration which I wanted to mention as a supplement to this one, where the Rasul ﷺ told us about a man who went out in the middle of the night and he made an intention to give sadaqah just for the sake of Allah. And he winds up giving it to three types of people. He winds up giving it to a thief the first night, or a thief or a prostitute. The next day was a thief. The three types of people was a thief, a prostitute, and a rich man, pretending to be a beggar. And the last time, after each night, he would say in his qiyam al-layl, he said, oh Allah, I wound up giving it to a thief, yani. I wish I didn't do that. But at the end of this, all of those three, he said, tomorrow, I'm going to go out tomorrow and I'm going to give sadaqah again for the sake of Allah. And he does it again, and then it's in that order. After this, he actually had a dream in which an angel told him, he said, Allah Azza wa Jal accepted your sadaqah from all of them. As far as the thief, he recognized that he doesn't need to steal, and he had money, and so he stopped stealing. As far as the prostitute goes, you gave her sadaqah to the extent that she didn't have to do this kind of bad deed to ransom herself. As far as the rich man, he felt such ashamed that it should have went to somebody who really needs it, that because your intention was so pure, Allah Azza wa Jal guided those people through it. So we learned from that what your deed is responsible for is your deed, to that extent. After that transfer, that you're not responsible for it at all, except in one case. If you 100% sure, and I mean 100% sure, if you're 98, give the person the money. If you're 100% sure that this is a crackhead, a drug addict, and they may actually overdose or kill themselves, then just don't give them the money. Make dua for them. Or in that case, I would tell you do something better, is if they're asking for some sort of sustenance, like if there's a Dunkin' Donuts right here, like look, I can get you a cream cheese, a bagel with cream cheese or something. Buy them food which you know that they're not going to be able to spend on something that's going to kill them or harm them. But always still try to see if you give something. But no, you are not held accountable if then they wind up, going buying anything haram. Alhamdulillah. That's a ni'mah from Allah. Or else none of us would give anything. Okay? I just have a quick question. I know this is right now, but is there a way that next week we can meet on a different day? Just next week. I don't know if that's possible. Or is it Tuesday it is? If it's Tuesday it is, then it is. But if there's possibility that next week, just next week, it could be either like Monday or Wednesday, that's possible. Awesome. If not, we stick with our plan of Tuesday, Bismillah.
We could vote on it. See
Can
if-
we vote? Check that.
So Monday at 6 works? Huh? Oh, that's true. What about the room reservation? Could we figure it out? Okay. Because we have to reserve the room. We have it
Yeah.
reserved for Tuesday. So I guess we could vote and then let you know. if it
Okay,
works.
if you got the room.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Can we vote?
And then if Wednesday works,
Wednesday looks better.
okay. It would be the same time, 6.
I don't care about the time.
Oh.
Make it work.
Oh, we have the Wednesday common hour. That's-
I don't care if you want to meet up at 1 in the morning. I'm down.
all right. What's the common hour for Wednesday?
I've done it
2:30.
before. I'm telling you.
So we could do Wednesday at 2:30 since that's the common hour.
Wednesday. Oh, I'm on my work. Well, look, yeah, stick with it. No good.
Wait, okay, wait. Wednesday at 2:30. Wednesday night at 6.
Wednesday 6.
So probably not. So Wednesday at 6. Okay, Wednesday at 6. Wednesday at 2:30. Okay. So
They want their common hour.
Wednesday at 6.
Pokemon Go.
Okay, go at 6. And then I'll let you know about any room changes.
Okay, so we can do Wednesday 6. So sorry, but inshallah that will be the only time that I move it. Okay? أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لكم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم العصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر